I'm banking my entire company on it. That's how much I believe in the value of this in starting a podcast. As a business owner who wants to become that guy, you're not starting a podcast to get 1 million listeners on it. That's just a bonus opportunity of having content out there. You're starting a podcast because it'll take you less than 1 hour a week. You'll film one time, and then you'll be able to have content on all social media platforms by only investing an hour of your time. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the 8-Figure Agency Show, where a successful entrepreneur and a soon-to-be successful entrepreneur help you build an 8-figure agency by documenting our successes and our failures. Today is a very special episode because, guys, it is episode number 20. We're 20 episodes in. I honestly can't even believe it myself, but 20 episodes, Gary.
That's awesome. Yeah, and today what we're going to talk about is how to be an authority in your space, as an agency owner or as a business owner in general. How do you actually be an authority? And we're just going to give 3 quick topics, and I'll go over those really quickly. And I think the last one's going to be the most impactful. So the first is how to niche down and how to become actually a master at your skill set. And then number 2 is people have to see you as that person, and there's a way to go about that. And then number 3 is building community. And I think this is the one I'm in the middle of. I think it's probably the hardest of the bunch, but it also brings the most impact and is the most fulfilling. So how do you want to tackle this today, Derek? Should we just start ripping on the first one?
Yeah, we could definitely riff on it, but before we get into that, I'd love to update the audience in the last week. How has business been, Gary?
Business has been good. So we're actually implementing HubSpot, and we're in the middle of that. We're rolling it out over the next couple months, and we have an implementer that we're using, and he's helping us with revenue, really helping us look at our buying personas and a couple other things that I've been learning about. And it's been really fun to go through and learn new things that help your agency grow. I think this is a little bit of at a different level that I probably wouldn't have been able to deal with, 4 years ago. But when agencies are ready to hear about it, I'm happy to share it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a future episode, like episode 67 or something like that. But no, that's awesome. On my end, it's definitely been a pretty crazy week. We had our mastermind last week, and I brought up some things. Really, right now, I'm in a season of just operational, right? So I really got to get operations down to support the new sales that I want to have coming into the door. And honestly, being vulnerable. Ever since we started to make that transition, we've been really struggling to find people who want to do the services that we're looking to offer, which really might be the feedback from the market. If I keep going with this to the end of the year and we don't see any significant traction, we're really going to have to reevaluate, hey, is it our offer? Is it who we're speaking to? Do we have to find some new way to market to these people? That's really where we're at right now. And I'll keep you guys posted on that for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because especially with the economy slowing down, it might be hard to sell a podcast because at a podcast, everybody kind of knows it's not an immediate effect. But I will say, Derek, I have been looking at the statistics. The shorts that you've been doing have doubled our podcast listeners over the last month. So I found the correlation there. So I think that's really, really important to be able to tie back for people who already have a podcast. And I know you're still working with those people like, hey, you already have a podcast. Let me make you better. I think that you can confidently say by day 90 or the third month, you should start to see that kind of growth, especially for newer podcasts or podcasts that are more niche.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. We're still really trying to reevaluate what we do, but it's ironic because the second we went to make that pivot and I got kind of back into the driver's seat and started reaching out to podcasts that we can clip for, people started coming out of the woodworks. I have a podcast I want clips for, and all of a sudden when I thought the market wasn't big enough, we added $10K in revenue. I was like, okay, wait a minute, maybe there is more. And just last note on this, I saw an Alex Hormozi clip, again, as one does, and in it he said, look, you haven't saturated your market yet. He basically said, most likely you haven't saturated yet, and until you hit that, you shouldn't really consider doing anything majorly different. I like that advice.
I think the lesson here for you, Derek, is that your systems weren't as tight on the outreach system, on the outreach that you were doing as you thought they were. Because if someone else was doing it and it wasn't working 0, and then you did it and now all of a sudden it's working again, that means there's something there that you're missing that you thought people were doing, but they're not.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I will keep you guys posted on this because I need to figure this out. I want to add, what did we discuss in the mastermind? Was it 20,000 in recurring revenue? So I need to add 10K a month in November and 10K in December to enter the new year at everything I wanted to accomplish this year. Aim for the moon, or what's the saying? Aim for the moon, shoot
Aim for the stars. Aim for the stars, land on the moon.
Okay, there it is. There we go. So, all right, with that said, let's hop right into this episode, Gary. Let's kick us off at point number 1.
Yeah, so we're talking about how to be an authority in your niche. So the first thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to pick a niche. You will never be an authority if you are trying to serve everybody. So early on, when I started my marketing agency, I served everybody. We worked with restaurants, we worked with car washes, we worked with chiropractors, dentists, we worked with sports arenas, on and on and on and on. I could give you tons of examples of companies that we worked with, but we were not experts in any of them. We were not, and we couldn't have been because we were so busy trying to just figure out the next thing. We didn't have time to really invest and become an expert in that one thing. And so once we niched down and became just dental, and then underneath that, a specific kind of dentist that we're trying to attract, that really helped us. Now, the other thing that ties into this niche, and I would love your feedback around this, Derek, is you must become a master of actually doing your thing before you become well known for it. And I think TikTok has confused people with this. So there's all these people out there that are telling people how to build huge businesses and how to blow up your business tomorrow, but they've never actually done it themselves. And so they don't really know what they're talking about. And sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't work for people. But I really believe that you have to become a master. So how long does it take to actually become a master? Well, if you Google search it, people will say 10,000 hours or 10 years. Here's why they say that. Because 10 years is too long for me. I don't have that much time to become really good at something. That's because if you're spending about 3 hours a day working on a skill like being a violin player or something like that, or a basketball, putting in 3 hours a day, that'll take you about 10 years. So you'll become really, really good at that thing that you're practicing every day for 10 years. But what if I spend 10 hours a day working on it? And that's what I did. For 10 hours a day or more, every day I was focusing on this one thing and becoming really, really good at this one niche thing that not a lot of other people were focusing on. And that helped me become really good at something. Rather than 10 years, now I just did it in a couple years.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of people, they don't think about this often enough, is that getting good at something means you actually have to tactically do it. So like you could read everything you want, you could learn, and I'm doing air quotes because you could, go to school or read a book, but if you don't actually do it, that doesn't mean you're going to be a master at it. You actually have to execute on what you're planning on offering or what you want to accomplish.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where people get confused online because there's so many self-professed gurus. Yep. And it's like, okay, are you actually trying to sell me something? And you're telling me you're an expert at it? Or do you, and that's how you make your money is by selling me something? And that's your sales pitch? Or have you actually built something and you're telling me how you built it? Those are two totally different things. Yep. And now here's the thing. I had a guy reach out to me. He said, Gary, you're the only person that's telling online what it's really like to operate an agency. And I was like, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. And then he said, so you're probably never going to blow up. and I understand what he's saying is that people don't want to hear how hard it is. People want to hear all the hot and, the hot takes and all those kind of things, but they don't want to hear how much work it is and how much effort and that it takes 10 years to become this expert. Or if you work 10 hours a day at it, maybe it only takes a couple years. If you don't like the way that sounds, then you're not going to ever be an authority in anything.
Yep. No, a lot of people don't realize that. And it honestly really upsets me because when I see the people online, hey, I can do X for you or do X for you, and they've never done it before. Don't get me wrong. I understand it. I've been there. You got to start somewhere, right? But you can't expect to sign a $5,000 per month client or $10,000 per month client or whatever it is if you've never actually done the thing before. You have to put in the reps to get there. Now, look, one thing I will say, if you're in that position right now, what do you have to do to get there? Well, offer a much smaller package. Start locally, right? So something I did is I started with local businesses, did the thing, only for like $500 a month, which still at the time was a lot, right? And for them, it was nothing. For me, it was like, whoa, $500 a month, right? Tested it, learned what actually works, did the thing, and then I duplicated it and did it on a bigger scale. That's how you start. Start small, offer something smaller, and build your expertise.
Yeah, and it takes time to become expert at what you just said, right? You're not going to do it in 2 months or 3 months. I actually just had an interesting conversation with an agency owner. He reached out through a mutual friend, and he's doing $750,000 a month in MRR, and he has a way bigger team than mine. And he's doing about half as much as we are. And he's like, how are you doing this with such a small team? comparatively, right? And I'm like, honestly, I think we have too big of a team. We have too many people. We're overhired. And he said, Gary, how is that? And I said, I started going through culture. And I said, here's how we look at it. And we started going through culture. And he was like, oh, man, I got a lot to learn about culture. We haven't approached that yet. And that's a whole separate skill set. So if you want to become an expert at culture, then you got to spend a lot of time on it. He's an expert at driving marketing results for a particular industry. So now he's mastered that. Great job. Now you can move on to the culture part. That's going to unlock the next door. Then you can unlock the next door after that. My point is that none of this stuff comes easy. Yes, You can hack it by hiring consultants and hiring people and talking to different people in your industry and trying to figure things out faster. But there is no shortcut. Like, you have to go in and get your hands dirty and learn these things.
That's why, personally, I love the game of business so much. And again, I always mention him, but I just love his content so much. Alex Hormozi, his podcast is called The Game. He did that intentionally. It's a game. And there's rules to the game. One of the rules is you got to be an expert. But to be an expert, you got to niche down and you have to put in the hours. 10,000 hours. It's the concept of the kicks, right? Would you rather practice one kick 10,000 times or 10,000 kicks one time? Me personally, one kick 10,000 times. You get a lot better. But with that said, Gary, there's another underlying thing here when it comes to niching down that a lot of people don't realize, that the power in it. And actually, it ties into why I believe people should be starting a podcast. So I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So people have to start to view you as that guy. So you've niched down. So I'm going to use myself as an example. Gary's the dental marketing guy. He spent 3 to 5 years doing nothing but dental marketing. He understands it. He can talk about it. And that's great. But now people actually have to see you as that guy. Not just you just being that guy is not enough. So now that you are that guy and you're that person, now you can start to show up and be that. So how do you do that? I just made a list here. So number one, you have to go to events. You have to go to in-person events and you have to network with people and you have to talk through with them their problems and how they're seeing things. And again, it needs to be industry specific. You can't just say, yeah, I'm going to, a marketing event. No. That's not what I'm talking about, because that's not going to get you business. That's not going to get you people to view you the way that you should be. I'm talking about, if you're in the dental industry, going to dental events and talking to dental offices. If you're in the podcasting industry, going to podcast shows and talking to podcasters and talking through their business to the point where they're going, wow, this guy Derek knows stuff about podcasting that I just didn't know. And I've been doing it for 10 years because you're approaching it from a different angle. And that's I think is huge. Number two, speaking at these events. And you go, well, how do I get to speak at these events? Well, people have to see you as that guy. You're not that guy yet, right? Number three, partnerships is huge. This has been the biggest one for us, is where I'm going to other companies and I'm going, hey, I want to learn about your company. And they explain their company to me and I go, here's how I think I can help you grow your company. And I'm going to refer people to you. I'm going to bring you on my podcast. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And they're like, man, that's awesome, Gary. Thanks. What can I do for you in return? If anybody ever thinks about marketing, I'm your guy. Cool. Thanks, Gary. If you do that enough times, guess what happens? Gary's the marketing guy for dental. Then after that, podcasting is huge. You will become an expert. And I know it's like, you're like, well, what am I going to talk about? I don't know if I could talk about dental marketing on every single show for every single week for an hour or two. You don't have to. You can actually show up and talk about other things that are related to dental marketing, or have other people talk about their experience in marketing, or talk about operations inside of your industry, or talk about any kind of problem that people face. So I talk about big problems that people are facing inside the dental industry, and people go, oh, that's that marketing guy and he's talking about dental again because he's crazy. He loves dental, right? And then lastly, I would say your social content, your blogs, writing blog. Like, we crank out 2 to 4 blogs every single week about something in the dental industry, and posting those on LinkedIn is huge, by the way, because people will follow those. And so doing all of those things, guess what happens if you do that for a year or two? Just consistently.
You're seen as the guy.
You're the guy. No one knows more about it than you.
It's funny, Gary, because I have had in the last 30 days, I'm not going to exaggerate. I think I've had 3 or 4 people come to me and say, hey, I want to be like Gary. Can you help me? And they're talking about you. Like, I want to be that guy. How did you help him be that guy? Right? 3 or 4 people came to me in the last 30 days alone.
That's awesome.
Look, I'm biased when I say this, but I'm banking my entire company on it. That's how much I believe in the value of this in starting a podcast. You're not starting a podcast as a business, like as a business owner who wants to become that guy. You're not starting a podcast to get 1 million listeners on it. That's just a bonus opportunity of having content out there. You're starting a podcast because it'll take you less than 1 hour a week. You'll film one time, and then you'll be able to have content on all social media platforms by only investing an hour of your time. And it doesn't even cost that much. You can invest anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month, and you can invest $5,000 to $10,000 a month. Just depends on what level of interest you have in this. But an hour a week gets you everywhere. You will be seen by everyone, everywhere, on all platforms. In my opinion, it really is the number one way to go, and I'm banking my whole company on it.
Yeah, I think it, as long as you're niched, right? Like where I think people would probably get themselves in trouble here is if they're cranking out podcasts and they're not niche and they're not very, very specific. And you and I have had a lot of conversations about this, actually, about this podcast. We said, how can we get more listeners to this podcast? Well, we could cover things that are not related to marketing agencies. We could talk about things that don't impact just marketing agencies in general, but are more entrepreneurship. But that's not going to get us the audience that we want, right? So now we're going to have all these listeners, and they're not actually related to agencies. I want to help agency owners, and you want to help people start podcasts in the agency world. So let's just keep focusing on agencies. Obviously, there's more to it than that, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would add to that, Gary. I would say this. There's a balance there, right? And we're actually working through this right now together. Mm-hmm. Even though your podcast is super niche, the whole purpose of it is this. We kind of looking at it like an 80-20 split or 85-15. 80% of your content minimum should be super niche down. That means you're probably not going to do 1 million views on a TikTok clip when you're talking about net to marketing.
Yeah.
But the 20%, when you're talking about hot, controversial topics, or I'm making this up, but why people shouldn't brush their teeth, right?
Yeah.
So that would go crazy. Something like that.
I'm actually going to talk about that on my next Dental Riff podcast because Liver King's wife is a dentist. Did you know that?
I did. She was a hygienist or a dentist?
No, a dentist. She's a dentist, and he doesn't brush his teeth. So I'm going to do a whole thing on that. So anyway, sorry for
definitely clipping that. No, we are definitely clipping that. And cut to the clip of that right now. So the way we look at it is there's a balance, right? An 80-20 rule, where 80% of your content should be super niche, but then 20% can be that broader content that gets you that virality. So Gary, the way you said it in the Slack channel the other day, you can have your cake and eat it too, right? We can do a segment. Like, for example, Gary, that draft segment we did a couple episodes back killed on TikTok. It did nearly 10,000 views.
Oh, really? I didn't see that it did that well.
I think it did about 8,000, and I checked it yesterday, so it might be a little higher right now. We did a draft segment. It wasn't necessarily an agency thing. It was just the top 5 business books, and we riffed on it. That's what I mean. The 80-20 rules. Some of them niche, some of them broad. You can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, but and there's balance, right? So you have to test things out. Like, let me give you an example. I did a podcast with somebody from the dental industry that went to Ukraine and did like this war help thing. Had nothing to do with dental. Had nothing to do with any of our content. It got like 4,000 views. Not a reel. It was a full podcast. It was 30 minutes long. 4,000 views, which is a lot for a dental marketing podcast, right? But it didn't do anything for us, right? Because it was just people who were interested in the war. And then when they realized, oh, this is a dental marketing podcast, it doesn't do anything for us. Now, I would do it again because I was interested in the topic, and I'm not gonna, and it was some people that were in the dental industry, and I wanted to talk to them about it, and I would rather talk on air than off of air. So about that particular topic. So I would do it again, but knowing that, right? Knowing that this content is probably not going to do anything for us. And understanding that, when you start to understand that, that's when you can start to really move the numbers and have more influence.
You know, what I'll add real quick as a final tip before we move on to point 3, Gary, is this. And I saw this on Twitter the other day, and it made perfect sense. Make every piece of content, specifically when you're talking about TikTok and YouTube Shorts, as if a brand new audience is going to see it, because it is. That's why they're so awesome, those platforms, because they have the For You page. They have a whole new audience. Every clip that you're going to put out there, new audience almost every single time. And if you're not reaching that new audience, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It drives me nuts about TikTok, but it is the thing that's great about TikTok is that your followers really don't mean anything on TikTok. Like, you're being reevaluated every single time about the content that you're providing, and you kind of have to figure that out. So that's a blessing and a curse at the same time. All right. So the last part. So first of all, let's go back over them. So if you want to become the expert, you have to niche down, and you have to become a master of that niche, of whatever you're doing, whatever you're providing. Number 2, you have to become that guy at that. Like people, even though you are a master, if people don't know you're the master, then it doesn't really matter. So you have to become that guy for everybody. And you have to be really clear on what kind of that guy you're trying to be, right? And then lastly, and this is the part that I'm in the middle of, and I absolutely love it right now. This is my favorite part about my job right now, is building community around whatever you've built, right? So I'm building 2 communities. Number 1, I have an agency community. And number 2, I have a dental marketing manager boot camp that we're doing, and then we're having a community built out around that. So why? Because those are the 2 things that I'm actually good at. I'm really bad at billions of things, but those 2 things I'm good at. So how do you build community? And this is where people go wrong all the time. I had a guy reach out to me in our Discord community, and he's like, I can't figure out how to get people into my community. Here's why. Building community is about giving, not taking. It's 100% about giving. So if you're just like, well, I'm going to make money off of this, you're probably not going to be successful. Well, I'm just going to do this so I can get sales right away. You're probably not going to be successful. The beautiful thing about building community is this. If you can build a community, like a real community of people who actually care about the same things and want to help each other, eventually it'll be worth a lot of money. You'll be able to do things with it, and it will always be worth money, always. But if you try to approach it and make it the money thing up front, you're probably going to fail.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. You know, there's a framework around this I've mentioned in the episodes in the past. I don't remember who said this still, and if anybody knows, tag them in the comments, please. It was a TikTok video. The concept was this. Look, it's easy to say lead with value. It's easy to say, give, not take, but how do you do that? And the framework that they taught was lead with an offer, not an ask. Very simple. Anytime that you, quote unquote, need to get something from somebody or want to build a community, offer something to them first instead of asking them for something. Don't ask something from someone. Like, for example, with this show, I didn't come here and ask you for an hour of your time and your team's resources. I offered you for my team to handle the project and just said, hey, I'm going to give a platform where you can riff on A, B, C, and D and just show up once a week to film the podcast. That's the difference. Leading with an offer, not an ask. That's how you can inherently give, not take.
Yep, exactly. And also I just think what your motives are too, right? So if your motive was just like, hey, I'm going to get this podcast with Gary and then I'm going to sell advertisements on it so I can make an extra $5,000 a month, I have no interest in that. There would have been no chance of us being able to work together on that. So I think your intentions are huge. So what did I do, Derek? Last year I said, I am going to help as many agencies as possible, and I'm not going to charge a penny, and I'm not going to ask anybody for anything. And I'm just going to keep giving. I literally just got off a call with somebody else, and he was like, what can I do for you? And I was like, bro, I just want to help you. That's it. And he's like, can I pay you? And I was like, no, I don't want you to pay me. And he's like, why are you doing this? And I said, this is actually what I like to do. I love doing this. And someday I'll make money off of it. I already know that. I've already been living life long enough to know I can already see the writing on the wall. It's going to be successful. I'm going to make money at it, and I'm going to love doing it. But right now, I'm just building what I love doing. That's building community. If you have a bunch of people there that are willing to help each other like that and have that attitude where everybody's just giving, you can't go wrong. It's not going to go south on you.
This again, and I know I'm biased, but it is why I'm banking my entire company on content creation and podcasting specifically. And the reason why I'm picking podcasting is not because it's the hot new vertical. It's because honestly, it's the easiest barrier of entry for anybody, and it has the most repurposability. I know that's not a word, I made that up, but it's the concept of build once, sell twice. That's the value in podcasting. But if you have a community, you will win every single time. Period. Like if you have a base of 1 million followers that truly are in your community, you can launch anything at any given moment.
You don't need 1 million. You can have hundreds.
Yeah, you can have
hundreds and make hundreds of thousands of dollars with hundreds of followers.
It's crazy. Yeah. Community beats it every single time. It costs no marketing dollars. You have a test market. It wins every time.
Yeah. When I need answers for things, for agency stuff, for content, I just go in there and I go, hey guys, what do you guys think? Yep. And they just flood me with all the answers, and it's amazing. And then I try to do the same for them. Like when they do that for me, I want to go, when they go, hey Gary, how should I set up this legal structure? And how should I set up my proposal? Like I want to help them. Here's my proposal. Here's my thing. And people are blown away by that. And even dental marketers, people who view themselves as direct competitors to me, and they probably are. Like, I'm like, cool. I want to help you too. Like, let's help each other. It's such a better world when you do that.
Totally true. And a lot of people find that difficult to do. But again, I want to make sure the audience understands this. When it comes to building the community, what Gary is trying to really explain is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's community in a niche. Like you built the community for agency owners, and a community for dental marketing managers.
Yes.
That's the secret. That's the trick. And you don't need 1 million fans, like Gary said. 100 people is more than enough within your niche. That's why it's important to niche down, and that's how you become an expert.
Yep, 100%, man. Yeah, I just looked up this TikTok too. Yeah, I did 8,000 views on the book draft and almost 800 likes on it, and yeah, lots of people shared it.
We should definitely do more. We should definitely do another one of those.
Bro, that was my idea.
It was.
So, I'm just playing. I literally stole it from someone else. I saw it somewhere else. I was like, bro, we need to do the draft.
Yeah, it was the FRDI show, right? I think they're crushing it with those. Their entire TikTok page, their entire podcast is literally.
One of the guys that does those, he used to just do them by himself, and he would just be like, he wouldn't even do drafts. He would just be like, what's the best condiment out there? And they would say. He would go, some people are going to say ketchup, some people are going to say barbecue, but let me tell you why it's ranch. And he'd make this argument for ranch over barbecue and ketchup. And then everybody would argue in the comments over it, right? Because everybody has a different opinion. It's not real, right? It's not like you're really drafting anything. And I think it's like the perfect polarizing content and it creates division, but in a positive way.
Gary, what's the best condiment?
Ranch. I'd have to pick ranch.
Ranch?
Yeah.
Ranch.
Yeah, I totally made that up. I put that as I just put my words into his thing. He did it for everything. He did the best numbers. What's your favorite, favorite sport, best athletes? What's your best fast food? Who's the number one fast food in the country right now? So what about you? What's your favorite fast food?
Favorite fast food?
Let me guess. I'm going to guess. Let me guess. Chipotle.
Guess. No, I can't say Chipotle. I don't even know. Is Chipotle your favorite fast food?
By like 4 billion miles.
But that's like next level. That's like not fast food. That's like fast casual. That's a different level.
So let's say favorite place that has a drive-through then. We'll define it as a drive-through.
There's so many options. Okay, for me, it's really got to be between Culver's and Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A I'd probably go with.
Chick-fil-A is good. Is there Culver's in California?
No.
No, Culver's is great. They're known for their butter burgers and these cheese curds that they have, and their ice cream, their custard.
It's good.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
What about In-N-Out? Have you ever been to In-N-Out?
Never been on the West Coast.
In-N-Out's good.
Never.
Yeah.
Never. I'll come one day. I'll go.
Yeah, we're gonna do an agency meetup. So we're gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. So
I'm booking as soon as you tell me where and when. I'm booking. All right, guys. Well, listen. Let's sum this up real quick. So bottom line is, if you want to niche down, right? Well, you have to niche down, right? But how do you actually become the master, right? Number one. 10K hours, right? Gotta put in the work to learn the thing. Number two, you want people to see you as that guy. How you can do that? Speaking engagements, partnerships, starting a podcast, really effective, creating any sort of social content, and eventually people will see you as that guy, that woman, that person in the industry, that go-to, the authority in the space. And number three, building a community that's super niche down, that really provides value to your audience.
Yep. Like, follow, subscribe, all that stuff.
Yeah, guys, leave us a review, comment, and that'll be our call to action for today. You guys know the rest. Please do leave us a review, though. We'll see you next week. Peace out, y'all.
Peace.